Look where I am today. As you know, I'm Sally Brownbill, and today I'm with the magnificent Michaela Webb from Studio Round.
Thank you.
How are you, Michaela?
Very good.
I'm so thrilled to be here and to talk with you today about your illustrious career and all of the wonderful clients you have.
Oh, that's very nice.
You know, we before I met Michaela today, we've known each other for a long time, but I asked Shani, who works for me, to do a little bit of research and background, and some of the clients you worked with have just blown me away. But before we go into that, I think what's always really lovely when we start an interview is to hear sort of where you came from. You know, so you started out in New Zealand?
In New Zealand,
And then what happened?
I started out in New Zealand, did my degree, then worked for 2 years as a designer, 2 different jobs, 1 year and then another year in a design studio. And then I actually got asked to go back and do some lecturing. So Lisa Grocott, who's at Monash, was the head of design and in the university that I studied in. She was my lecturer. So that's such a...
Connections and networking, we talk about it all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And
Love
so
that.
she brought me back and said she was actually just got the job to run the master's program at RMIT and was leaving New Zealand. And so she said to me, would you come in and do some lecturing? And at that stage it was part-time. And I had done 2 years of being in the industry and was sort of feeling like, you know, when you do, I don't know, I'm still a designer now, but at that stage I was kind of questioning everything, and is this what I really want to do?
Yep.
So then I went back and I lectured for 2.5 years. And that, it's almost like you're doing a postgrad, you know.
It's a similar
thing.
formula that I was telling you what I did. It is
really,
interesting, isn't it?
it's
And
amazing.
you continue to learn and...
You also then you put in things into your own practice, don't you? Because you're talking to them about what's a good practice, and then you're like, oh, I actually have to do that myself. So you know, so you're like, ah. But and it was after that I moved to London and worked there for 5 years, which was great. And I suppose it was sort of like, I was 24, nearly 25, and I was just like, right, I need to travel. So it was always, I think it was always going to be there. It was just working out the right timing.
I love that. It was a similar thing for me doing that travel. And so in London, you got to work on some pretty amazing project as well. You were working for a fabulous studio. Can you talk a bit about that? And how, I think a lot of people that are listening to this, the question is, should I travel? Should I work overseas? Should I stay here? How did you go about finding a job? I think that's interesting.
Yeah, look, it's such a good question, because I was so worried because I'd lectured for 2.5 years. So I was like, you know, I hadn't been on the tools, and probably when
am I out of touch?
Am I out of touch? Yeah, and also probably at that stage in New Zealand, you know, we were on Apples, but it was very early days, and so then the software we were using was different to software that was being used in London. So getting to London, going, I have to use new software. And I haven't been designing for 2.5 years. So my portfolio felt like it was older. Well, not dated, but maybe just, you know, it only had 2 years, but I'd been out for 4.5 years. Do you know what I mean? So I only had sort of 2 years of work.
But do you think that your life experiences teaching was something that they saw in you, that was a maturity, or that...
No, I wish they, I wish they did. It was a big, what was it?
I'd see that as a really good thing, and go, okay, they thought enough of you to get you to teach, and what must have you learned? But okay, they didn't think that?
No, they didn't. I mean, I was just really lucky at the timing, because it was Wolf Hollins was where I got the job. And in New Zealand, at that time, because it's a little island at the bottom of the world, lots of innovation gets tested there, because companies can test something out and see how it hits a market without it actually being affected in the rest of the world. And this is prior to the internet, so it was all secret. So it was Bridgestone and Oliver Retread. So Bridgestone tyres and Oliver Retread amalgamated and brought themselves together. And I got to do all the brand for that, which was actually a really big international tyre company. And I did that only 1 year out of university, but it was sort of this huge rollout project, really big deal. And so when I got to London, and it was probably my biggest folio job, but it was tyres and retread, which is probably why I was like, do I really want to do this? You know, because it was quite a boys' world, and it wasn't glamorous, and it wasn't like fashion that I thought I was going to do. So When I got to London, Wolf Hollands were looking for a designer as part of their General Motors team, and I had the experience with tyres and motors.
Oh, don't you love that? So, but prior to that, and I think that's so interesting for people to understand. You know, you want to do fashion, and here you are working in tyres.
I know, and cars and vehicles. So I was rebadging my first
And you
job
weren't a
in
rev yet?
London. No, and I didn't even like cars. So my first job in London was rebadging Vauxhall vehicles, and they have a little griffin.
Yes.
So like a funny little griffin. He's got lots of pointy bits on his back and crazy wings, and the flies were getting stuck in the griffin.
Oh.
And so I spent
The flies.
months
That was the problem.
redoing this little griffin and working with
Like product designers.
product designers
Oh my gosh.
and modelling it, and then putting it into CGI and making sure it could kind of look good because it was a big General Motors to change the badge on a car is a huge job, and it went for months and months and months until it was perfect and the flies didn't get stuck in the wings. And and then it actually so it launched. So, but after being in the General Motors team, I had to be there for about 8-9 months, and then I was allowed to actually do other work in the agency. It was a big agency, so it's 280 people.
Gosh.
And the design floor, there was about 100 designers, and there were 3 females
Oh
in the
my
100.
gosh.
Yeah. And I think being a female did help because they were like, okay, a female that knows something about General
Tyres.
Motors and tyres. So
And it's from New Zealand.
yeah, so they were like, and one of the other females was actually from New Zealand. So she, she said
didn't
a
know
really
her,
good.
though?
No, I didn't know her. We got to be friends once we got there, but I didn't know her beforehand.
Yeah.
So and we've actually worked together for years. Wolf Hollands, by having 280 people, I felt very young and sort of went into this place with my eyes wide open. It was in King's Cross, and they had a professional chef with a whole team, and they made us breakfast and lunch.
Stop.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that happening now?
For 280 people. Yeah, and the clients would turn up and clients would have lunch. We had a big dining room, but it was really, really intimidating because you were so young and you would like,
Which
I'd just
fork do
walk
I
in
use?
there and I'd like get
You'd
a
be
plate
like Pretty
of
Woman.
food
Which
and
fork?
I was like, yeah, it was really scary. Yeah.
Oh, but wow, what an extraordinary time to be there and working
was.
in that sort of atmosphere. And how did you...
.com was happening, so there was so much money for
Money.
brands.
Oh, what about that? Remember
I
that?
know. It's not the same.
And Michaela, when you were there, what was it that made you ultimately think, I'm ready to move on? I think that's always an interesting scenario, you know, because we talk to many people that have been at places like 20 years, or they jump from every year, they decide they want to do something different. What sort of was your MO with that?
I think at Wolf Hollands, it was amazing because there were older designers, and I thought I'd gone into a new profession. You know, like it's like, oh, there's not, like in New Zealand, I didn't know any older designers because when I did my degree, we were the first ones on computers. So I might have known a few designers that were 35 or something, but at Wolf Hollands, there was people that were 60, 65, you know, so I was
Real
like,
thinkers.
wow, these are real thinkers. But what they would work on, and if you wanted to be a good designer there, you didn't work on a computer. So they had a Mac operating department with 50 Mac operators, and you would, as a designer, you were seen as you would sit behind someone else who would work, right? So you would direct something, you would get fonts out of font books, images out of image libraries, and you'd put it all together, and you'd book a photo. We had a photocopier person, like we didn't even use a copier, and a scan person,
Isn't that wonderful?
and we had drivers, and we had a cutting and pasting department. So I felt like I was kind of constantly, okay, I need to get some boards ready for a presentation. I'd get it all ready, but then I'd book in with a Mac operator. And so it just meant I was getting further and further away from those tools. And after lecturing for a few years and then being in this role where I was directing, I learned such great directing skills, but I was moving away from the computer. And I just felt like that element of craft and that element of making, I was further and further away from it.
It is.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it totally does. It's what I spoke to you about earlier off air. We were talking about me with my photography. I sort of got further and further away from it, but ended up being totally immersed in it, but not taking photos.
Yes.
So I love that about my career, and I love that for you as well, that you start off thinking, and this is such a good lesson for people, you start off going, right, I'm going down this path, and it's like, well, no, hang on a minute. There's all these other paths that I can do,
So
and
many others, yeah.
and embracing it and learning from that. And
It's almost like the more you do in something, the more you realise you don't know that thing,
or you didn't know that you'd love to do that
you'd
thing.
love to do that thing. And there's so many little subcultures of little things that you can go down, so many pathways. Yeah. So.
And so, from when you knew, what was it that made you think you wanted to leave there? Was it coming back to Australia or New Zealand?
No. I went and then worked at a place called Spin, who do beautiful brand work. I was really lucky because at Wolf Islands I'd been working with what was called Orange mobile phones, so that was Hutchinson Telecom, and we were working on the brand of Orange, and I'd been working on that for a good few, like maybe 6 months, and the people from Orange, Wolf Islands lost their Orange account and they got Spin. And so then they said to Spin, we'd love it if you could grab Michaela from Wolf Islands. So I got headhunted, which was actually really good because it took the whole decision making out of my hands. And it just shows you just want to work hard wherever you are and do the right work for the clients. And look, those clients then, they took me to the next job, which was really interesting, and I loved it at Spin. But that was much more arts-based, lots more arts organisations, and that's probably when I started doing more in the arts, which was great.
Yeah. Which you've certainly continued right through, which we'll talk about in a minute. But spending that time with those more mature designers who back then started design with pens and paper, it was all about thinking and strategy and planning. It sort of had well, of course, way back then, not that it was that long ago, but there actually wasn't advertising courses. Like designers started out as designers and then ended up in advertising. So that's what these guys were, and mostly men, I have to say. But they were real thinkers, and that importance in what you do now is strategy based, and that has been such a calling card for you throughout your entire career, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
I think what I loved about Wolf Islands was the designers that were great thinkers and strategizing at every stage and working out how to position an organisation. And before that, I was like, what do you mean, like position an organisation? Like, because I was sort of gone through this design degree and we weren't talking about positioning.
No.
And so I think that world of strategy was wonderful. And then but not being on the tools was a problem. So then I went to Spin. They didn't have strategy. It was all about design craft. Just make things look good. But you often found what you did as a designer, you had to do a lot of heavy lifting, and you had conversations with clients where they were being critical about your design work, right? So there's, I don't like that font, or I don't like that colour. Whereas at Wolf Islands, we didn't have those conversations because they'd bought into the idea or they'd bought into the strategy, right? So they were like, I want to take customers from here to here. So once you started designing it and you were like, right, to take customers from there to there, we need to do these things, they trusted that you knew what you were doing. And so what you realised was, for me at that stage, I realised I needed to be able to have strategy as part of what I needed to do in the future, as well as design.
What I love about it is we've been talking a lot recently about, making your work the place that you want to be, and creating your passion and your love for food and for restaurants. And one of my all-time favourite restaurants is Gimlet.
That's lovely.
I have many stories about drinking Gimlets at Gimlet that I probably won't talk about now. But tell me, what did you do there, and how did that come about?
We've worked with Andrew for a long time. So we worked, the first restaurant we did with Andrew was 312 on Drummond Street, which is no longer. But then after that, we did Cumulus. So that was probably like 20 years ago. So we'd done like a number of restaurants with Andrew, and then the opportunity for him, he got that site, which was fantastic, but he wanted something that felt like it was of that site. and it felt like it maybe had always been in that site. And wonderful thing about Gimlet, and this is all credit to Andrew and the interiors team at Acme, is I feel like that site had a lot of different people in it. So
My uncle lived upstairs at Cavendish House.
oh, did he?
Yeah, he did.
Wow.
But
so Bang & Olufsen was there.
oh yeah, Bang & Olufsen. That's
and
exactly what I was thinking of. Because I remember
company
the
before
salary
that,
phone.
DDC. And both of them did okay, I'm sure, but it never worked as a retail store. I think it was just going in through those doors. It could be windy. The transition didn't work to just pop in and have a look at something. But as a restaurant, it's a beautiful experience.
It's so Europe, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's
it
for
is.
me. It is, and I love sitting up higher and looking out onto Flinders Lane. And
it's a beautiful.
it is.
It's a beautiful spot to look out from.
Oh, how wonderful! Can you talk to me a little bit about Studio Round, like how that came about, how the name came about? You started in 2002.
You're right at the end, right near the end of 2002.
Okay, and you've built it up now to a staff of around 20?
Yep.
And we're in this beautiful location here in Fitzroy now. Can you tell us a little bit about the starting of that and the growing of the business? What made you want to start your own company?
That's a good question. I think at that stage I was probably around early 30s, and we'd left London, but we could have easily seen our lives be in London forever.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that I didn't want to just come, but I wanted to be back closer to New Zealand. So there was this kind of pull back to being closer to home.
Yep.
And Melbourne had always appealed to me because of its love of food and innovation, and there was a real can-do attitude in Melbourne that I think appealed. So Rob and I were out for dinner in the River Cafe in London, and we'd had this waiter, and he was amazing, and he was from Melbourne, and we were sitting there, it was my birthday, and we were sitting there talking, and he was telling us all about Melbourne and this restaurant and that restaurant, and we were just like, oh my God, this place is like, we need to go to this place.
Yeah, and you'd not been to Melbourne?
We'd called in on our way to London 5 years earlier, and we'd gone to somewhere down in St Kilda, like an amazing pizza place. We decided we would leave London and just go and see what it looks like to be in another part of the world. But we almost kept all the doors still open in London. You know, it was like, do we just do it for 6 months? Do we do it for longer? And we also knew that St Kilda Road was happening with NGV. And with all the work that I'd done in the arts, I'd done a lot of work with the Deutsche Bank and their collection. There had been some sort of ties with what the NGV were doing, and then buying different work from galleries. Yeah, we came here and we met the team at the NGV and got the job to do the rebrand of St Kilda Road, which was fantastic.
As you do, just blow in, pick up a job at the NGV.
I think
wow.
It was amazing, but it was a lot of work.
Did you kind of get it
really
and go,
hard?
Oh my God, we've got it.
Really hard, yeah. And they were under such tight timings. I think they were opening in 9 months, and we did sort of 18 big publications in 9 months. We did all of the products for the store. We did the brand, we did the wayfinding.
When you talk about did you have a team with you at that point?
Well, it was Rob and I, and we ended up having 9 people in our house in North Fitzroy, in the hallway. Great. Because it sort of just started as us, and we thought, yep, we can do this. And then we got a couple more, and then we just needed more and more and more, and it sort of just grew. And then we moved in with a production company called Ease Production, and they were in the city, so they had a space. Steph Brady was the owner of Ease Production, and we moved in with her, and she's still my very close friend, so that's wonderful. And she did all the production for us. So at that stage, we just needed help because there was so much print. Yeah. You know, and we were doing printing out of Germany, we were doing printing out of Asia. We were it sort of was non-stop couriers coming in with samples and print production. It was a different time.
Totally different time. But you needed somebody
all that help.
Yeah, you needed an organiser.
And we were printing umbrellas and aprons and T-shirts and all for this opening, which had like sort of, there would be 20 kinds with different artists' work. And we were doing a Dutch Masters catalogue where the Musée d'Orsay was so particular about how this was printed. there was just it was very complicated and technical, I think, and so.
And do you know what I love the most
lot.
about all this? You've gone from Bridgestone tyres to the Musée d'Orsay.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that's just such a wonderful thing to have in your career that I think a lot of people get stuck on what is my style or what is my area of expertise, or it's certainly dealing with narrow-minded employers wanting to see, the fact that you have done catalogues before or that you have, but your story is such a positive way of looking at design is design and it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was a mentor, my mentor was Rick Wallace, the late Rick Wallace. And Rick would people would go, what do you photograph? And he goes, whatever you want me to.
Wow.
So he did fashion and he did hotels and he did cars, he did portraiture, whatever he wanted to. He said, I'm a photographer, I'll take pictures. So I feel like with your design, that's how you've kind of rolled, but you've gone, what we love is food and art and galleries and those sorts of things. So you've been able to create this gorgeous world.
I think look, I think it is fun, but a lot of those jobs, they just don't pay for 20 people, those kind of jobs. And I think that's really good for people to understand.
Well, I think that is good too, but also, Michaela, I think in 2025, where we are right now, a studio of 20 is quite large.
It's quite large.
It's one of the bigger design studios around now.
Yeah.
So the studios
and it takes a lot to feed it.
Yes.
All the time.
Yeah, right, okay.
And so we do a lot for shopping centres. And those shopping centres weren't naturally my world at all. I mean, the first time we went to, I think we'd got the job to rebrand Chadstone, and Rob and I had only been there once.
Just the job to rebrand Chadstone, I mean. That's huge.
And so we drove there, and my daughter was probably about.
Oh, you'd only been there once, and just went, we go and check it out.
Yeah, we thought.
Did you get lost?
Yeah, we got very lost. I got so lost, but we thought we'll drive there, and our daughter was in the back seat, and she. We said, we're going to go to this place called Chadstone because you need new running shoes, and we'll go and have some dinner, and we're going to, Dad and I are going to start working on it, so it'd be good to go and have a look around and blah, blah, blah. And at that stage, I think we knew we didn't have the whole job to do Chadstone. We had the job to do the social quarter and the market pavilion, which are the two new areas. And we drove out there, and there was this billboard, and it said the fashion capital on it. And my daughter was like, we're going to the fashion capital. Mum, you've never taken me to this fashion capital. She was so excited, And then once we started the rebrand, we took the fashion capital off because it didn't suit the product, because they now were food and social and entertainment. I think it's those bigger jobs, those that we've been doing actually for the last 10, 12 years, shopping centre world, that helps also keep a studio of the size.
And that is also something really interesting that I like to talk about. Obviously, I like to talk a lot, is that you have to be a realist as well. So you have to have money that feeds your family and feeds your business, and then you have your passion projects as well.
Yeah,
and at some point, they come in and money, but it's more about the heart, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And so for you, would that be sitting on, perhaps the Potter boards and can you talk a little bit about that? How important that is for your soul, for your design soul?
And I think for the design soul and for the team soul, because it's also about making sure you're giving them enough a balance of projects.
Well, there's drinks on Thursday nights.
Drinks on Thursday nights, but they like to be able to do, if they've been in the world of shopping centre all year, to be able to say, there's a hotel project that we're going to do and a beautiful restaurant project, and we're doing. At the moment we're doing we've got about 4 restaurants we're doing, and a new one with Andrew.
Stop. Are you allowed to tell us, or will you have to kill me?
I can just tell you it's on Crosley Street.
Okay.
The Becco site.
Ah, yeah. Oh, yes.
So it's a beautiful building.
Oh, that's
and a
behind,
beautiful site.
Yeah.
So for the studio, what feeds them is that mixture of clients. Probably for me personally, being able to be on boards, I'm on the MAF board and I'm now, the Potter board's actually been dissolved, so it's no longer. But what we did was we got it to the space when it reopened. So that was always the remit. And so I was on that for close to, I think it was 8 or 9 years. And it was about repositioning of all of the university galleries. So the Science Works, Buxton, Potter, M Pavilion, Granger, etc. And there's about 6 or 7, and they all make up a pool of art galleries. So it was about working with the team strategically to making sure that it was an approach where each one fed off each other.
Yep.
And they could have one team that delivered on all of that, rather than competing with each other. So that was a great sort of journey, and then also bedding down what the new Potter was going to be, working with them on 65,000 years, and then also working on them to try and make sure there was a food experience in that space.
Of course.
Yeah.
Was that your idea?
Yeah, well, we needed it to be a destination.
Yeah.
It was definitely the board's idea.
Yeah.
I definitely, Peter, who was the chair of the board, and myself, we definitely were like, we need to make this not just like a coffee and cake. It's lovely being on a different side where you're not actually the one doing the work. You're not the service. You're the one that's
advising
and strategizing as a board.
And that sort of comes back to your very first role working with Mac operators, where you had to pull things together and advise and design and put that together.
Think about it holistically.
Yeah.
And it does.
And not every designer can do that. It's like
No.
not every designer is going to be comfortable pitching to clients
That's right.
and those sorts of things.
Some of them are better.
Just
don't
behind
want
the
to do that, but they actually just prefer to
be in the background.
And others like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. So yeah, everyone's different. I think.
We spoke earlier on about design now. So and we brought up AI, of course, which is just an often talked about subject, positives, negatives. Where does Round and Michaela sit on that? As I take a drink.
As you take a drink, I think that for a long time it hasn't been that long really, has it? But for a while there we were sort of very hesitant to jump into it, and we were very much like, is it taking away from photographers' jobs, illustrators, artists, etc.? And so you sort of are very skeptical about it. And now it's here, and we need to just jump on board. And actually, some of the projects that we've done more recently, I mean, I think it's actually been really good. I mean, I've really enjoyed it. It's been really good fun. It's back to that idea of directing. So you might not be directing a photographer or an illustrator. But you're directing this machine, I suppose. And what we've found in the studio, which I think is really interesting, is that the younger designers are taking a lot longer to adapt to it than some of the older designers, which for the first time in technology, that is amazing.
And why do you think that is? I thought that was fascinating when you said that.
I think it's just that idea of knowing really good reference points. Because when you're directing something, if you can kind of feed in the right information to a brief. We're only as good as the brief we're given. If you're feeding in the right information to that brief and you've got the right reference points to put in, it makes a huge difference. And so a job that we just did a few months ago, it's for Pinchgut Opera, and we've done their identity a couple of years ago, very like on the smell of an oily rag, really tight budget. And we and then they do 4 operas in a year. So we meet with their creative team and they tell us about the different performances. And a couple of years ago, we did it with photographers. They have $5,000, right, for a whole year. And so, as you know, that's
and
nothing.
So this is one of your love projects.
It's a love project.
Yeah.
We're doing those.
Yeah, they're so important, aren't they?
Are. And well, it's also about juniors kind of getting to work with photographers maybe. You do that work, but you have to ask a photographer a huge favour. And so you're using up all your favours on all of those projects. But this year, we decided we're just going to do it on AI and see if we could do that. And one of the performances was all about a canary that dies and a cup of coffee. And so they gave us this information and they said, we don't really have a lot more than that. So we were like, oh, okay. Whereas in some of the others, they gave us huge, depending on who the artistic group was that they were working with, we'd either get a massive long briefing like for an hour versus like a 5-minute or 1 sentence. So for this one, for instance, AI kept producing quite, I suppose, explicit images of death with guts and blood and heads falling off the canary. And it wasn't until we were like...
And any coffee?
and the coffee cup sort of was all spilt or there was blood in the coffee and we were like, no, not that dead.
Wow.
So when the junior designers, they were like they were just frustrated with it. They were just like, I just can't get this to work. It's not doing what I want it to do. It would be way easier to photograph this. Why don't we just go and get a stuffed canary in the coffee and we'll just photograph it? But then we were able to, the senior design directors were working on these, and you know, by really reframing the language, it's like the semiotics that they used, they were able to get the right result. So I suppose it really showed me that idea of experience, knowing the reference points, knowing maybe what Monty Python-esque means when a canary dies, and understanding that and putting that together has made a huge difference.
Well, do you know what it is? It's a wonderful story, and it makes a very clear example of how to use it. It's like learning a new language, isn't it?
It is. It's like, yeah, it
so
is.
you think about when you speak, when you're starting to learn Japanese or something, and you're saying, can I have a glass of water? And you say, I really like your chair.
That's right.
And then, so it's a similar sort of thing. It's like,
Totally,
I've got to actually get that around. So, and I think
it takes sort of patience.
In certainly our time, we have had in design and photography and thinking, we've had so many changes.
Oh, so many. Yeah.
Right, so many changes. It's like,
and I think it's just going to accelerate more.
And it is. And I think we are so used to it, like, right, so we're not using film anymore, we're going to use digital cameras, right? We've got to educate people in digital photography. We've got to educate clients in AI. We've got to educate ourselves. Right, no, we are going back to the dark rooms. No, we're not. So there's all of that going on, which the years of experience we've had. So I've been quite vocal in the last couple of years about the importance of having more mature people in our industry, because those organisations like yours, where you have a lot of really great young people here, but also more mature people, and we're working together, it makes sense because
exactly. Yeah.
Like for me, the older I get, the younger they get in my business, and I learn so much from them.
Oh, totally.
You know, I'm on TikTok now.
Oh, well done.
Yeah, I mean, hello.
That's so good. That's so good.
But do you know what I mean? Like, because they
totally.
just sort of said, well, you want to be talking to us, and it's like,
you got to think
about maybe we're not on LinkedIn. So,
yeah.
So it's
well, because there's about 5 or 6 people here that have been with me for over 10 years.
And that speaks volumes for you, doesn't it?
Well, it does, but
and for your company.
And we've also been able to see their children grow up, and also when it's something like AI comes, and I'm like, guys, we just need to embrace it. We're going to jump in. They go, yeah, no, I get it. You know, so I guess by working together for so long, we sort of trust each other, and inherently know we're just going to give things a go and give it a try, you know.
And so, Michaela, the big question, what is next for Round and for Michaela Webb?
Look, I think being able to be at the beginning of projects, I think, is still something I love being part of. So being able to be at the beginning of Chadstone, of the rebrand, when they were just considering what it meant to be a city. So in those planning meetings, we were thinking about what does Chadstone look like in 30 years. I think envisioning some of those things is really exciting. So we're doing quite a few projects where we're looking at whole place and the whole place. So the whole precinct around Victoria Gardens, which goes down to the river.
Oh, that's where I live.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've lived there for 30 years. We're just down just off the river.
I knew. So that whole precinct is a Salter precinct, and we're doing all of the place work in that. So what does it mean to create these places where thinking about the future of what people are going to need?
Because when we moved there, that was the Ajax factories.
Of course.
And there was nothing there.
Nothing.
And then I remember 25 years ago when I was pregnant, they started to build this. And then my husband was going, well, you're never going to go up there. And, oh, no, I'm always just going to go down to where I was. But
no.
Now I live there.
Wow.
Second home.
Isn't that amazing?
And Lily worked at Toscano's for years and all of those sorts of things. But it was like you think it's been there forever, but it's actually...
It's not.
But Victoria Gardens has been great, but yeah, it needs so much. It's
needs
just
a lot
tired.
of work. Well, it's the same owners as so Vicinity own
if ever you
Victoria
need
Gardens.
a research group, it's me.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah.
I will hit you up for that because we're doing so much.
And
we're
the
actually
district.
Presenting the playbook tomorrow.
Oh God, that's so exciting.
And a whole new identity.
Oh wow.
So I think it's just more projects like that
where you can get your teeth into it.
Yeah, and you're doing more than just the design. You're thinking about it as a place that people want to be, and what is it that why do people go to places to be? Because we can shop online. We can buy anything we want online. So why do we go to these places? So thinking about those human needs I still find really exciting.
Yeah, and I think also looking at your work, the vastness and the enormity of what you've done on your website, the idea of the strategy and the meaning behind the design is such an important part and is your real point of difference as a studio, wouldn't you say?
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
And clients get
those
that.
two things coming together.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
How wonderful. Well,
Thank
Michaela,
you.
I could sit here all day with you, and if we waited a bit later, we might even be able to
I know. Keep going.
go to Gimlet. But
I know.
sadly, it's lunchtime, so it's after lunch. But it's been a real thrill.
Thank you.
I'd like to say we didn't colour coordinate our colours, but
No,
how good
just
are
happened. Just happened, and look at us.
Thank you so very much.
No problem.
Michaela Webb, everyone, thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, Sally. That's right.